Okay, we're ready to begin the 17th Knowledge Seekers Workshop with the Knowledge Seekers from the Spaceship Institute, including Mayran Kesh. And we've got, who do we have there? Armin and Marek, is it? And is there anyone else there now?
Marco is here.
Marco, sorry. Okay, Armin and Marco.
John is still asleep.
Okay, John is sleepwalking on his way.
Yeah, and Ivan is at his surgery this week.
Okay. Okay, great. So, yeah, we're already up to the 17th workshop. We've got a few things that Mr. Kesh has mentioned that one of the topics of this workshop will be systems and new setting. So there's something new going on in the lab with the reactors. I'm assuming that's what he's speaking of there. And then we hope to hear a bit about the Guru Mahan peace delegation that visited the Spaceship Institute last week. And there's some pictures on Facebook of that event. That's interesting. Many people have been commenting about that. And we do... go ahead, sorry.
What are the comments?
They were just interested. One person mentioned that he had an idea that there would be a spiritual connection with the Kesh Foundation, and he thought it would come from India as one of the first, sort of outpourings of connectedness with the Kesh Foundation, or with this particular teaching. So I found that interesting, and other people sort of correlated with that they seem to have some respect for the Indian guru teachings and so on. And this person seems to have had a peace foundation for quite a few years, a couple of decades, let's say. And so they definitely have a notion of that's one of their missions in life. So I thought that was a good correlation, and it just seems like a natural connection to make with the Kesh Foundation.
What happened? Guru Mahan and his joined us last Thursday, and we had a short talk, and then we had lunch.
Just you're breaking up a bit there, Mr. Kesh. We have to get the sound maybe a little bit better. Is that possible?
Is it better now?
Yes, I'd say so.
Yes, I was saying that Guru Mahan joined us on last Thursday afternoon, and they were here to early, evening. We had discussions, and then we had a lunch, and then we had a private meeting between two of us in respect to the Kesh Foundation and his group. They're a large international organization. We understand the position of the Guru Mahan, and at the same time, he sees in the same way the Kesh Foundation as one of the ways of process for world peace. He was invited to the 14th of July meeting of the world religions because as part of the followers there have the same kind of respect. And he accepted, and we have received an email that a representative from his team will be here on the 14th, and he has requested for a second meeting on the 29th of August on his return from the United States. So a second meeting has been agreed for the 29th for enforcement and development of the technology in India in conjunction with his association. So we most probably see Cash Foundation Institute. There's a lot of noise going on in the background.
Yes, we have something going on in the background. I'm not sure what that is, but you definitely hear some interference. Okay, I'll shut off my microphones and see if that helps.
So what happens is that on the 29th of August, Guru Mehan will return back to the Foundation Center with his team, and the talks are on the level of opening the Keshe Foundation Institute as a university in India, in conjunction with his group. And so we are moving into the next steps of teaching directly in India as an institute, the same as what we're trying to set up in Italy at the moment. So the outcome is looks bright, so we have to see what the next step is going to be. Meetings like this are becoming more frequent with officials of different governments and different groups. We've had a number of groups here in the center in the past week, and we have a delegation tomorrow morning here, and we'll see what happens with that side as well. But in large, or by large, we are moving in a different direction that, as always was my hope, that we don't end up with one place to be the center. We expect that this progress will carry on much faster in the coming year, now that we have more freedom. The point with this World Peace meeting is that we have not received any response from any of the other world religious leaders as of yet. In communication with Vatican yesterday or the day before, it seems to be favorable, but we have not had anything, so we had to deliver a second invitation to Vatican for response. So we'll see where we go and how the things progress. As I said, we don't expect many to attend. The reason is very, very clear in the peace message in the letter in my name. If you read it, it puts an end to a lot of the positions that's been attained by people in different names of religion. So, as usual, we pray for their souls and hopefully elevate them to a position to be very hastily. In respect to the setting, what we have done, I think Armin and Marco will explain in more detail, is that we have gone into central position and centralized feeding as of yesterday or the day before. Yesterday we actually started doing it. What this means is that in the past we went around feeding each reactor one by one. Now we have set the systems which they will explain into a position of what do you call it? Feeding simultaneously all the cores, which this means I've just painted myself. Oh, it's okay. What this means is that from now on, we centrally control all the reactors by one feed, which means all the reactors are fed at the same time by one feed line. This has never been done, which it is interesting to see the development. They will explain the setup, but the whole purpose was to see to take the control out of going around the reactors and interfering with them. So we feed the gas at the same time to all the cores, and this is in a way the reactors choose what they want to take and which one needs feeding and which one doesn't. And the process was very interesting. It took Armin and Marco a couple of days to achieve it, to empty the cores and set up. They'll explain, or most probably they'll explain in the workshops. This allows us in a near future to literally connect all the motors of the reactors to one power supply too. So we go up and down in the power, and we go up and down in the gas feed simultaneously. And this brings a lot of new facilities available for us to do so. The new setting is of two star formation interconnected with two of the reactors, which means we have a star formation, all being put on the pallets, both star formation separately, but interconnected with one line in the middle. One of the reactors sit next to the other one that interconnects. We've seen strange phenomena and feeding, and then we'll see how it develops in the coming days and weeks. The whole idea is to, now that we have 8 reactors available on the floor and 2 getting ready by John at the moment for use of GaNs only. All the systems up to now were set up to use gases. And we have broken a new dimension in the world of science where we are producing plasma without any energy input or any radioactive material input by purely interaction of the hydrogen with nanolayers, nanomaterials. This has never been done. And at the same time, as the nanomaterial produces what we call gases into plasma, then itself contains the plasma, which means the plasma in the reactor is contained by what produces it. This is unknown science in the world of plasma technology. We usually use different techniques, cold plasma, hot plasma, whatever, to put energy or different separation. Now the containment produces its own plasma, and it's fascinating to see how it develops. Yesterday, in a way, I explained a couple of days ago to the knowledge seekers, when you come into the lab, be deaf and blind. Don't look for physical rotation of motors to get confirmation that the plasmas and the things are in move. And at the same time, do not listen to the sounds that interferes with your understanding. To this effect, yesterday we shut down 2 of the power supplies to the 2 reactors which were not physically rotating, and we saw no difference in the in the outcome of the plasma monitoring systems, the 2 monitors. So and we carried on feeding gases into the cores, and we still see rise in the plasma. So the rotation of the physical rotation appearance of the motors does not have any interaction with the plasma rotation. So as I said yesterday, we go slowly as each reactor comes to standstill. We withdraw the motor and see if it has any effect. So the magnetic field of the motors have no effect on the field of the plasma because they're in the matter level. And so we hopefully should reach a position where we see no physical rotation of the cores or the motors, but we see the rotation of the plasma and holding of the plasma in respect to each other in both systems. This is...
Would that mean that the job of the motors has already been done in terms of producing the gravitational fields inside the reactor for a certain period of time in order for perhaps the layers to set up properly or to acclimatize themselves or whatever they do to set things up for the point where you can slow down or stop the reactor and still have it function? Can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah. What happened is, I'm going to go back on something very interesting. When we started the institute, when we went into the lab. There was a sequence of events which was set, and one without the other one would not happen. And now we are in the same path of sequence of actions. Initially, we opened the whole structure with creating nano layers through using caustics. And everybody was expecting to see different things, which was part of the process. Then we used the nano layers to produce GaNs materials and some energy. Then we use the nano layers in, I can hear the footsteps of John coming up. And then we use the nano layers to on the inner surface and outer surface of the cores. So in fact, good morning, John. So in fact, the process which started from the third, fourth week of the work of the foundation in the lab was to go in two different directions. One, to create the GaNs of the material, and once to use the same nanomaterial for lining for production of the plasma in the core. The direction of the plasma in the core is not to be used as a containment. It's in the same process as producing GaNs. It is a step to produce plasma. And in the coming weeks, once we achieve this point, we do away with the GaNs material, GaNs layers, because the plasma will hold itself inside the position. As I keep on joking with John, and he shivers every time I say, we're going to smash his core, because his core is the only one we can smash and see the plasma inside it. So the process has been to produce nanolayers in one direction in a matter environment like a sea salt to release the plasma, or in a gas environment to release, again, plasma through gases. So in fact, there is no difference. It's just that, as I always say in all the workshops, is creating the condition, not to achieve and produce something. So we create a condition of the earth. We reached production of the proteins and GaNs in a material state. Now in the reactors, we're creating condition of the universe in the cores. So we produce plasma in the same way, but in the what you call it, through a gas material. Very soon, John is busy with 2 new cores, which now the next step is that there are 2 cores getting ready to use the GaNs materials we produce, the plasmas we produce, to be used into 2 small reactors. The difference is with the plasma in the gas state is that now the gases are themselves in a plasma state, in a spherical plasma state. So in this state, we don't need to coat the inner cores with more nanomaterials. We already produce the plasmas in the gas state. So what has happened is that John is building 2 small ceramic settings. And at the same time, Arman is producing the same system, but in a plastic see-through. So we cannot see what happens inside the core, which John is using, but we can predict it. But we can see in reality what happens to it, because the reactors of Arman shows us the same characteristics. So we see a transparent one, and we see one inside the core. There is a high possibility that we use the 3 reactors together once we see the parameters, because the size is irrelevant and the containment is irrelevant. So in the coming days, we're going to the next step of development, which is using the GaNs. You're getting painted like me too. Just throw it in the bin. It's on the top. Just throw it in the bin. So the process of plasma production and use of the plasma is taking two directions, two distinct directions. One, plasma through the gases, using a nanolayer and containment, and then when we produce the plasma, we do not need to have a containment or use the plasma we produce in the gas state to create the same kind of magnetic field. I hope you're right, that the production of the plasma through gas materials, this is very much the structure of the central structure of the solar system, the stars. In the stars, you don't get so much plasma as nothing, just a magnetic field center, but you get it as a matter plasma, which is very much the way the system of John is going to predict. And we were looking at it yesterday. We mixed the gases of CO2 and the gases of copper oxide in a bottle to see how they mix. And we know in this reactor we need to mix some water because the gases will be more or less pasted to the wall. But from the last one we broke, we've seen the pattern. So there's a position of if we can go to the next step afterwards, where we leave the gases in a vacuum state and the liquid inside it. So the reactors and what we've done over the past 3-4 months has been a step-by-step understanding and developing. There is a next step which has been explained to the knowledge seekers. We have seen production of material in the Iranian reactor because it's got a window, and on the window we see gases of matters. I think this has been explained or was reported last week. Now, with the 2 reactors which John is building, I explained, we try to build a curtain, a plasmatic curtain. At the moment, 2 sets of star formations are next to each other. We are studying their effect and the interaction. In a coming time, maybe after the holidays, we will put the 2 reactors of John in between the 2. So we create a curtain between the 2, a plasmatic curtain. And this curtain, depending on what we put inside the cores, we should be able to achieve matter condition, which means the friction between the gravitational magnetic fields of the star 1 star formation on one side of the curtain with a plasmatic magnetic curtain will create a friction, and that friction we can control the strength of the field on both sides. It can lead to production of materials and matters. This is the next step of the progress after the holidays. This is exactly what happens in the planetary and the solar system. The gravitational magnetic field of the sun in interaction with the gravitational magnetic field of the Earth at the point where the Earth is leads to the production of nitrogen in a huge amount. Further out, the same process happens in Saturn, and you get a helium. Therefore, by creating a curtain, we give a false or imaginary magnetic field curtain to create the condition of the solar system becoming the star formation, and the curtain becomes the gravitational magnetic field of the Earth. Further steps, maybe in a year, as I discussed with John, Marco, and Armin last week or this week, is that we put a number of these small gas reactors in the formation of the box, where within the box, depending on the field strength we create in this box, we can produce new materials in the box formation, not as a curtain. So you, in a spacecraft in the future, you produce areas with given fields, and in that position, you produce water or whatever you need in a gas state, in a plasma state, and you convert the plasma state into gas or matter. You got to realize a further point that when you carry a large number of people, you can't have a little reactor. So you have to create environments where continuously for like human being, large quantity of water is produced. And this is the only way to be done in boxes or rooms or environments where a continuous flow of surface gravitational magnetic field from the central core or auxiliary cores leads to production of materials you need. Anything that you want to do, even if you want to produce aluminium in a large quantity for construction or repairs, you just change the field strength according to the reactors which you put in and the cage you produce. This is how in the universe matters are created. There is a high misunderstanding, as I've explained before, that in the supernova, materials come and they become whatever it is in that solar system or that galaxy. This is, in fact, happens in the plasma condition. So plasma, which carries the total gravitational magnetic field, the strength, mass of plutonium, in the right condition will become plutonium. You create the environment for it. If it's oxygen, you create oxygen in the environment when it arrives. So part of misunderstanding in the world of science, like what they call the cosmic dust, these cosmic dust are solar dust, which is main part of the dust materials we see in this solar system, which interacts with them. Mainly we see it as a aurora in the northern poles, is created through the packages of the energy, gravitational magnetic field packages which left the sun. And as they reach in the different environments of the solar system, they convert the plasma to matter. So production of the cosmic dust is exactly how we're going to do in our what do you call it, magnetic curtains. The structure is very simple, and all you need to know, this is what we're going to test again here, is if we use monomaterial like copper, this end up with production of copper near the curtain. If we use CO2, we end up with production of CO2. So you can pre-chip the system into what you need to do. You create the gravitational magnetic field of that environment, curtain, or and you literally sit into what you create. In some space technologies, it's used like a crate system. What it means, you don't need to have boxes all over the place. You place an environmental box with the different cores that they can change environment, and you move it along between the center core and the star formation or your auxiliary boundary cores. So in fact, as you move the core along the system, you produce different materials. This is done in emergency cases, and it's very rarely used, but it's available. So it means you take the Earth and you move it closer to the sun to produce something else, and you move it further out towards the Saturn to produce helium. If you cannot change, and you give a constant, what you call gravitational magnetic plasma. This is part of technology which we will talk and we start developing in the coming months and years. There is a very interesting point which I've seen raised by one of the ex-knowledge seekers on the internet, in regarding that there is a slavery going on in the Keshe Foundation. In fact, if we do not put time on the time of the knowledge seekers in the lab, these guys will eat and sleep on the floor. Alma says, look, give me a bed, I stay here. This is the true knowledge seeking. And not people will come with a pen and they expect to do everything and be done and fed. The structure is they put all the knowledge seekers who are in the foundation now, they have built, they brought, and they're still building their own reactors, or conjunction with other systems, we are building reactors. Those who come to the foundation and think they can come with a pen in their pocket and become knowledge seekers, or take the knowledge and sell it or do something else with it, they live in a cuckoo land, dreamland. The reality is, if you're a knowledge seeker like me and others around this table, time is irrelevant. What we achieve is the matter. We most of the time now, I had to pressurize, or at least try to put a limit that 8 o'clock in the evening is the time of break. Otherwise, this lot, like me, will be in the lab till 1, 2 o'clock. We don't keep people here by force. People stay here by pleasure of trying to achieve something. So if there is a misconception that people come here and will be, as they say, all honey and gold, there is a lot of research. There's a lot of hard work, and it's done voluntarily by the knowledge seekers. They left their family and all their earthly belongings to be here to be able to advance the knowledge of man. So if you are applying to be a knowledge seeker and you only carry in your pocket a pen and you hope you'll be told theoretical, in this institute there is no such a thing. As we said from the beginning before we started the institute, we have no blackboards. Teaching is done on the floor as the time raises and as the time arises for the knowledge to be transferred. It's no use me telling you about what is what. If I would have told you about the interaction of the plasmas in the 8 cores 3 months ago, it would have been something impossible. Now we have it, we do it, and to us it's a normal process. And the strange thing is that the people around the world who listen to these workshops, it's become so normal to them. But just ask people in the plasma technology, and they laugh, they think it's a joke, because they cannot imagine few people be able to achieve such a huge breakthroughs in the world of plasma and sciences. We do not go out to destroy, we go out to develop. But the people come to the foundation with a different expectation according to what they think. And they use all sorts of names and covers to cover their own, shortfalls and shortcomings. The foundation is too big and too strong and too correct to be touched by any of these allegations, and we do not respond to these. But the reality is, if you are going to be accepted as a knowledge seekers, and the way it looks in any of the Keshe foundations around the world, in the world of, or in the universe, having a pen and a pencil and a computer is the habit of the man. Nobody carries a pen in their pocket, and paper is a laughable item in the universe, as it's become for the man at the moment. We don't see many students carrying things like the laptop. My son at the age of 6 in the school was told just to bring an iPad, that's all you need. And writing is becoming something he would have surely forgotten about. So people who think things have to be taught and written will not happen here. We teach individually on the cases, and we teach directly as the case arises. Discussions is part of the development, and scientific argument has to be there, otherwise it becomes a dictatorship. But on the other hand, when you see something the other people don't understand, you have to keep on the same track till it's understood. So in a big way, the whole structure is that we do not write, and we do not give notes, and we do not read books. This is an institute practicality. As I said, in the universe, there are no mosques and no church and no papers and pens. If you see people in the universe having a pen and a pencil and paper carrying around writing things, you have a huge surprise coming to you. So we take the same pattern. The knowledge is transferred, and the way I hear and I see knowledge seekers in their teachings do the same thing. They pass the knowledge on to you, they don't send you a piece of paper. So the process will be kept. We try to record as much as we can in our teachings here that it can be changed in the future. But if you're going to sit here and write papers for the next lesson, there'll be no lessons, because all the time is going to be spent, especially with my English, in writing and correcting. So we teach on board, on time, as is needed. Another part of the whole process with this technology and the finding it of is what not to expect and what to expect. We push the limit of science at this moment. I explained in a very simple way to the knowledge seekers for them to understand the purpose of interaction of plasmas. I left a couple of eggs on the table in the lab last week. And because I knew the discussion with in regarding the plasma and interaction of plasma comes up. I think John has taken some pictures of it. I don't know if he's posted it. And he will post it in the future. If you want to understand the difference between the matter and the plasma, just get an egg. An egg in your hand is a matter. Break the two eggs on the table next to each other. Now you see the interaction of the plasma. There is no physical boundary, but there is a interaction of the matter between the different parts of the plasma. The plasma of the yolk with the plasma of the white, and then the white has a plasma of water, and it's the same. And if you break different eggs next to each other, you will see they all open up and create nearly the same shape or structure. They are not all oval. The boundary shapes is slightly different in one direction. It depends on where the line of the connection, what do you call the white piece which comes from the yolk, where the fetus starts. That creates a pull, and you find that pull of that material does not allow the total spherical shape of the plasma of the egg as it is inside the matter. This is the easiest way to explain and understand interaction between the plasma and the matter. This egg is a matter. Once you break it, you have three different plasmas interacting. If you put two eggs next to each other, which is broken, then you see the two plasmas interacting. This is what we expect and what we see. So this gives you a very clear understanding. This is one of the reasons I did this egg experiment with the knowledge seekers, was to explain in so many ways. I've been getting asked what's the purpose or what's the reason we are here and what we are teaching this way and we are changing the humanity. Maybe for the first time, I explained this to Elia when she was here last time, and I think it's time I explain it to the knowledge seekers. It's time to explain to humanity at large what's the purpose of the Keshe Foundation and why we start releasing knowledge the way we have, and it will be done. I gave an example of this to the knowledge seekers. As we were in Tuscany, we saw a very respectable scientist, Italian scientist, as we talked about him last week, that he's developed Giuliano, that he's developed a technology to predict the earthquake on Earth. He can predict it through radiation 6 to 24 hours beforehand. Now, the interaction comes through the radiation and interaction of matters that he detects. If you create the plasma and the reactors, which we do, and if you put a number of magnets, spherical magnets around yourself on the lab in your homes, you will understand every plasmatic magnetic field has a gravitational field and magnetical field, which is a repulsion. And if you're in a dynamic condition, if you move your magnets on the table in respect to the others, you'll find out you will pull or you attract magnets from each other. So if you have two similar magnets, there is a point that it reaches that the two magnets will attract and they gravitate and they come together. The reality is that the Earth and the solar system has, as we know, a twin sister. The twin sister, every time has come close to Earth, has created havoc on this planet. It's well documented. As a human, you understand that every time you bring the two fields together, just with the eggs on the table, they will come to the point that will interact and they mix. So the point has come, as we see it from outside the solar system, that the twin sister is about to approach in the coming time. But the whole structure of the solar system is on one of the arms of the galaxy. And the stars are created on the outer boundary of the galaxy, and on the wings they get pulled as the central pull of the gravitational magnetic field of the galaxy pulls them in, the way as Earth is getting pulled towards the center of the sun. And this interaction between the Earth and its sister twin star is inevitable. So, as the Italian scientists can predict 6 to 24 hours prior in the interaction of the Earth and materials to tell you that there's going to be an earthquake, as people who have access to this knowledge outside this planet, we see this coming up. The process of teaching in so many ways is offering man the Noah's boat. The story of Noah's boat has been repeated and gets repeated very soon. So if people ask us why what we do, what we teach, is what they call the day of judgment for Earth and the solar system, or interaction of natural processes of the magnetic fields, will bring this into action in the time coming. So what is going to be the remnants of these two solar systems, a mixture? What's going to happen to the humanity? Unless we don't offer this Noah's boat, there will be none. You have no option. As far as you as humans manage to go out is moon, and even not in a funny way with propulsion. The technology is there to give that hand, but in a correct way. If you ask why, what's the purpose, the same as I said, the Italian guy foresees the earthquake. We can see the structure of the two natural processes coming together. So as you go and empty a village from tsunami about to come, we are here to do the same thing with the village of Earth. So those people who make ridicule or whatever, they will stand to pay for it themselves if do not follow the way we sought offer. The process is natural, is not a calamity. It's part of the process of development of the solar systems and galaxies and the universes. As the two magnets come together, when the field reduces, as our reactors come together, when one field is weaker than the other, as we've seen on one of our two sets has become a feeder and one set has become to absorb. And in time, they will be attracted to each other. We observed this yesterday in the lab. The twinity system, which is an electron and a proton, and this Earth and its twin sister star, is inevitably in the coming time will happen. So, but there is a big difference. On Earth, there's been a habit of the man to fight and create wars. And if this comes into space, it creates havoc. If we teach jealousy, superiority in the universal condition, then we're going to run into a lot of problems in a larger scale. So we try to tame the man, teach the man before we take out the man into the universal family. Those people who say, if you're Messiah, why you don't do this and that? Just because you're Messiah, you don't have to breastfeed the whole 7 billion men on earth, and the cows and the fish. So the process is very simple. You choose on your terms, and we put the conditions. So I think this answers to a lot of people. You have to decide, and the decision is not physical. It goes through the level of understanding of the universal level. What you talk does not count. What your soul acts, it counts. And this is the same for people who do not know what we have said and how you're going to be judged on your own level. You judge on the level of your soul because your soul decides on how you as a physical body behave. The people who steal books off the internet, and then they say, because we stole the book, we understood and we joined because it's that we joined the foundation. So you're already thieving, so that there is no room in the foundation. So these people will find out there is no seat in the Noah seat, in the Noah's boat, because the soul takes a judgment not on the man. So we start opening the books. A lot of people say, can you explain more about the paper in my name? Now this is part of it. This is the structure of it. It will not happen tomorrow. We know roughly about the time of the collapse. We know the time of the interaction of the two solar systems. We have enough time to organize, reset, and to do what we usually do. This is not the first time. This is very much like you call a SOS team. This happens, and as the people of the universe are just and correct, when these things happen, we take position to do the correct things and make any error correct. So If you want to know more in how, you have to teach yourselves how to behave and how to be. In so many ways, this is part of the teaching of the whole thing, physically plus what you call spiritually, as you call it. So the next step is to develop a system that can accommodate man to survive in the universe. You have to learn how to do it in a way that man understands. The problem is not to teach you everything and just walk away and it's your problem. The problem is to teach a number of people who understand and leave the ethos of the foundation as called universal ethos. So the next step is, as we learn, we develop systems, and in time, because man has got a habit of changing things the wrong way, now changing it the right way is a big problem because he has to admit to his own shortcoming and his own misunderstanding and his own miscomprehension of the reality. I try to teach to youngsters before they start getting involved in the rest of the way it is false and it's been taught, and that's why it's causing so much havoc. The way it has to be, and it is. So from now on, we run the two things parallel, explaining in more depth, as I said, to the knowledge seekers. As of this week, the teaching has changed. We go in more depth in understanding both the ethics and the physical conditions, because without one, you cannot do another. In part of what something, if you notice, I try to do, I refer to what I've said to the knowledge seekers, because these are part of the teaching. We don't write it, so it cannot be, as far as I can remember, be exclusive to 3 people here, or if they teach 2 or 3 other people in their teaching or in their workshops. So it is totality. Today, this week, as part of the teaching, I explained the process of the creation on this planet. As we shown, you create the proteins, and then the proteins have different fields and gravitational fields. And the change in their strength or positioning the strength leads to the creation of life. If you look on the whole structure of life on this planet is exactly the same. A monkey has a kidney, liver, and heart. A man has a kidney, liver, and heart. A fish has the same. Or a bird has the same. So in different names, in different shapes and forms as it's been adopted. So the origin of the creation comes from the same point. And I was explaining this to the knowledge seekers, how life on Earth has started. There's always been a story of a chicken and egg, which one came first. The first came the 2 plasmas or 3 plasmas. When 3 plasmas come together of the different strength, the one which is in the middle creates the point of difference. And how these magnetic field, gravitational fields position and adapt themselves leads to creation of entity. This goes back to the beginning of this talk today. The gravitational field, magnetic field from the sun in interaction with gravitational magnetic field with the earth and the curtain of the field leads to creation of nitrogen on the top. Now you have a plasma which sits between 2 plasmas of different strength, and what do you call it, like a plasma gravitational field winds or tornado, or what do you call it? It's like a tornado, a funnel creates. So the vortex, in a way of a spherical vortex. So the interaction between these 2 curtains, one on the lower side and one on the higher side of the emitter, leads to creation of matter. And these matters, as they position themselves and they can organize themselves, leads to organized materials. And in the case of Earth, because you have hydrogen, nitrogen, carbon, and oxygen, these 4 as a plasma individually have led to, once the protein is created, in being in a specific condition of different strength, like you have the one we see, like a vegetable oil protein in the lab, and what we call the beef and what we call the fish in different strength, has led to production of a material. And these materials, according to where they've been and how they've been, has led to creation of what we call life. And this life has to have a system, a control system, you call it the emotional, and a physical system, what I call the leech. But this leech needs to store food, needs to dispose of food, needs to keep a circulation of food, what we call the kidney, the liver, the heart, and the rest. So the process is a natural process. And life has never been introduced from outside into this planet. It's a natural process of what is in this planet. If this is a little bit hard to understand, as I did with the knowledge seekers this week, I put an egg on the table. And in one egg, how does an egg become a chicken? The reason being, we had the pleasure of seeing new life here in the foundation. We put 10 eggs on there. One of our chickens decided it's going to sit on eggs. So in the last week when we came back from Tuscany, we have a new chick. We call him Chip Chip because it goes around, goes Chip Chip. So I was explaining how life with Chip Chip starts. You have a cock and you have a female which has the egg. When the gravitational magnetic field of the sperm of the cock sits between the two gravitational magnetic field strength of the yolk and the white, it creates that vortex and that condition. Then that vortex creates new condition of matters, which is embedded in the field, as I said about John's reactor curtain. If you put CO2 in it, we will get CO2. If you put copper oxide, we get copper oxide in the environment of the curtain. Embedded in these sperm and the yolk is a gravitational magnetic field of what we call the DNA of the chicken, or it's actually a plasmatic gravitational field, the strength of this cord in different formation. So what it does, the plasma of the yolk and the plasma of the white, with the creation of the new environment of the change, the difference as a gap, because now it's a gap between the white and the yolk, with the egg of the cock, leads to rotation and new environmental condition of the vortex, or what we call magnetic field motion, which then this material changes the plasma of the white and the yolk into the plasmatic gravitational magnetic field of the DNA of the chicken, and then you get the beginning of the life as the plasma changes into matter and becomes an egg and becomes a chicken. Now, in a simple process, you understand how life starts, why you have a man and a woman to create a life. And I explained this, I think, to Armin, that, or I think it was Marco, that if you understand this and you're a woman on your own in the environment and you have the capability of changing a slightly one gravitational field of one egg in a specific condition, it is possible for a woman to fertilize another egg of herself and lead to creation of life. So in so many ways, virgin birth is a reality if you understand the process of creation, if you understand the real process of creation. This touches a lot of people in a lot of beliefs in position and respect His holiness is blessed souls Christ. But this is the reality of physicality in life. Was there a woman? Was there a man? Who came? Was a chicken or egg? Now you understand the physical structure. Now you understand the principal process. In how we split to be a male or a female, this comes out of splitting responsibility and sharing the burden of life. When you're two, you can do more. You can support life more. So in so many ways, we understand why the human race has a split into two sexes, or the race on this planet has a split into two sexes. And this allows the process of selection much easier. This is what has been decided over years and millions of years on this planet. So in a simple way, by understanding the structure of the creation of the reactors now you can lead in so many ways to creation of life. Now it might make sense to a lot of you why I keep on saying, when you load the reactor up, pray for it. Because the interaction of the plasmas in different conditions can lead and does lead to creation of life. As I said, all lives do not have pens and pencils and notebooks and notepads. It's understanding the structure of the soul. So this brings in so many ways a better look, overall look in what we do, how life it is, and the purpose why we are here, what we are doing. Now you walk away from matter, walk away into the direction of the plasma, then you will see, you understand. A lot of positions are unattainable. It cannot be attained, it cannot be kept. Man in time will become refugees in space, as I became refugee from Belgium to Italy, but in a larger scale. As you don't have home, you find a new home. There is a lot of questions in the background, and it's been for years. Are the aliens here? We are soon will be aliens to the others as we lose home in the human body. The same thing has happened in the past, and those who have found home here are not necessarily visible to our eyes because we have chosen matter direction instead of the field direction. So, are there people amongst us who are not originated through the magnetic field difference, as I explained with the egg, to become bird or human? Yes, they are. Are they part of physicality we see, and some beyond us? Yes, because they do not have the field strength for us to be observed. Are they here to damage? No, because if they were supposed to damage, they would have done in millions of years. Man is too weak. Are they here to support? Yes, in so many ways, yes. But on the other hand, they are aware of, in a way, they have to move home. That's why we see more and more activities in the space over Earth. People are moving because it's imminent. This is not a process you can change. You can change something in a galaxy that you will come. Earth has been created on the outer boundary, the same as Saturn, and in time will take the position of Earth. So Earth is moving into the inner cores of interstellar environments of the galaxy, and the field forces in this area forces and pushes the two stars to come together to become one to guarantee their existence. So this is part of the whole natural process of life, natural process of life in the universe. If you look, understand it better, most of you have an idea that when a neutron splits, it becomes an electron and a proton. Now, have a look what happens. Electrons and protons both are gravitational magnetic field. Proton is more steady, but by volume is bigger. But electron is smaller, but by mass, by pressure of the mass of the plasma is much stronger. Time will come that these two will come to a position of push, or as a plasma, in a plasma condition, that the electron, due to loss of its gravitational magnetic field strength, will become weaker enough that it will join back to plasma. So you get a new neutron created again out of the same split, but in a weaker state. This state will carry on till the point that this neutron radiates enough energy out that it will split again to electron and proton of a different mass scale. This is, in a way, one of the reasons that you see different radiation effects from different neutrons in different positions. Some of these neutrons are created from the what we call neutron attraction, or by electron being going back into, as I said in one of my papers, interatomic fusion. Interatomic fusion is a natural process. Now, in so many ways, one by one, the papers written in the past make sense why they've been written and they're being kept to be done. So, in a paper which is the creation of black hole, we explain the same process of interaction of the two solar systems. It's in the original paper. If you go back to the what we call it, the institute which is holding the paper, you will read it as the stars enter into black hole. It's the same process. They release the interaction, physical interaction of plasma releases radiation. So you will see this process is not something new, it's something we originally 10 years ago in different form and shape explained. Now it comes to the whole packages of the knowledge. What I've been talking about this morning is what more or less been teaching in the last week in the lab as the occasion in different part of the development has come. So we're sharing a knowledge with you in what has been taught. There is no papers about it. The knowledge is passed on and understood in that way. So if I was going to write this, it would have taken me about 10 years to write this in a simple way. In 10 minutes, you understand the whole process of creation and the reason for changes to come. There is a fundamental misunderstanding, and as I had Rick on the switched off. It needs a battery. It's running out of battery. Full. The tape is full. Okay, it has to be downloaded. Sorry about that, because we record everything on the separate recorders. Just dated up. So it has to be downloaded on the computer on the Telebox before it's done. I asked that to be done before quite. So in so many ways, the whole process of slowly teaching from a Gans to where we are and where it's going is becoming more and more apparent. The whole purpose of this teaching is to unite, not to divide. But unfortunately, some people who come to the foundation with wrong intentions, they find out soon they kick themselves out of the foundation. This has been happening for years, and we've seen it in the institute. When they do not get what they want, everything become mistakes of the foundation and our problem. In fact, the problem is that the people come here with the wrong intentions, and in time, as it doesn't fit them, now we become the problem. We've seen this with the authorities in Belgium. We went to distribute and give knowledge freely, as we couldn't give it to be abused by them. We became the problem. So we have no problem with these things, because the truth is, in so many ways, if, for example, the religious leaders accept him, say, it becomes the end of their tenure. So they have to oppose everything which the foundation puts on the table, because then they have no job. And in so many ways, I was explaining to some people recently which holy book has written the condition of coming of the Messiah, and who has to decide. The people who have to decide, if they decide it is, they're finished with their jobs. And at the moment, the job is too lucrative to lose. It's too much power. So we do not expect any collaboration or acceptance by those who, by accepting, actually resign themselves from the jobs. So the technology is taught directly is for the intelligence of every man to take it according to his intelligence. Those who say you did this, you do that, we are in a physical term conditioned to the physical conditions which are here. But on the other hand, we have the strength to carry through because we know the outcome and what will be. So if you think that the religious leaders will run and say yes, no, because by accepting they have to finish their own job. When in a way in a school, when a teacher which is sick comes back to work, the supporting teacher has no job because the original teacher is there. We are in the same position. Do not expect by us sending the messages to more religious leaders that they all come and flock here stuff. Because by doing so, they put an end to their own job. And on the other hand, their job is created by man for the man. So in so many aspects, we do our job. It's our job to inform and deliver. But on the other hand, we know the proposition, and we know exactly what the outcome will be. So in reality, we go to Vatican and deliver our papers, but we do not expect that the Pope will jump out and say, yes, Messiah is here. Because by jumping out saying Messiah is here, he has no job. Because his job has been there to sit there and inform when the Messiah comes. So the feeling is very easy. There is just something happening very interesting. Huh? Is that we went, as I think a lot have explained it and showed it, we went to Vatican. When we went in, before we go in, it was sunny, as all of you know, and it was storming, and then when we came out, it stopped again. The same process happened here last week when Guru Mahan was here, when we started after lunch, and we came here to start talking one-to-one. The whole storm system started, and it rained and it stormed. When we agreed on what the condition of humanity is, and we were going to head forward together as him as a religious leader, the rain stopped. And when we went down, we said, you see, during the time of discussion, there was a lot of washing. And now it stopped when we agreed on what's going to be done. So this is a physicality putting some conditions, but it happens accidentally. We do not know. But we haven't had this kind of weather in Italy. According to the Italians, it's very unusual. So the process is understood, but it has to be understood in its totality. None of the world religious leaders will run to Keshe Foundation, because by running, they put an end to their own structure. But on the other hand, we don't ask them to end because they have all the facilities and access to humanity to convey our message in masses. For us to start teaching and transferring the knowledge is very hard. But the churches, the mosques, the synagogues has already got the followers. It's to uniting them and using the same structure to advance their humanity to the next step and being ready to depart from this planet. But as I said, when we go to another planet, there are no mosques and no churches. As I wrote in my email to the world religious leaders today, as is left yesterday and today, in the new letter regarding the change of time, we are here to support, not to destroy. And in time, people will understand. It's good for the religious leaders to take lead, then they have to follow their flock. Once they lose their respect, it'll be very hard to gain this respect back. So it's a decision making to serve humanity, not to serve oneself. I think I've said enough for today. I've given you enough headache, but a lot to understand. You understand why we set the new systems. You understand how creation started on this planet. Soon you start producing multi-reactors. Soon you start mixing different gases together. Life starts even when you mix gases together because they're plasmas and they have to show interaction. We see it here in the lab. The copper is changing, copper oxide is changing to white and becoming like a structure of the brain. Because fields on the top have the different interaction with the fields at the bottom with the spherical shape. And that the difference in plasmatic magnetic field between layers in interaction with the water which is here and the atmosphere of this room leads to creation of a protein. For that protein, because it's got copper, changes to communication protein or nerves protein. That's a simple process. I explain this in the future. You've seen this ball on the table, and you've seen the white pictures of it, and I see people keep on moving it. They were not supposed to move it. But this move is good because the move allows, much like the heartbeat of the mother. If there was no heartbeat, I was explaining this to Elia when she was here last week. I have a high respect for Elia and her knowledge. And I tried to start teaching the medical side to Elia and in a way to explain to her the essence of creation, how creation is done. And I explained the heartbeat of the mother is the essence of the creation. A fetus, when it comes together with the egg of in the fetus, when the egg of the man with the egg of the woman come together, we call it a sperm and egg. This egg creates a tornado. But at the same time, if you give it emotional direction, very much like the heartbeat of the mother, which is needed, then you lead to the growth of the production of the brain and positioning of everything according to that gravitational magnetic field. One of the cores of the creation sits in one of the actually the plasmas of the creation sits in the core of the brain or the skull. And then you have a second plasma condition, which is the physical body, and you have a third one, which is the hip. If you look at the structure of the hip of a human or people and the animals which they possess and they hold their eggs, they all have an environment where egg can fertilize. It's its own incubator, you call it, but in fact, it's the structure of the bone, very much like the reactors we produce. So in so many ways, the position of the brain and the position of the womb have a lot to do with each other. This is part of the reality. It's the same as reactors we're setting up in the lab. Every position, every magnetic field strength, gravitational field strength has a reason. So the heartbeat of the mother creates the turning and way, for example, a chicken rolls the eggs around every few days underneath her. In the incubators where they do chickens, they move them continuously. That movement partially dictates because the brain and other organs have to be set. If the test has been done, if you leave one egg in a position continuously, you will find this malfunctioning in the product at the end. So the heartbeat of the mother, the gravitational magnetic field of the heart of the mother, has a direct effect on the brain structure and the body structure of the child. So then you understand how important these things are and how it is, because we never understood it this way. Is there any questions? I've been talking to myself.
No. Thank you, Mr. Kesh, for all that information. And yeah, we could take questions from people from the GoToMeeting. I don't see any questions right now on the live stream. Let's see. Any questions there, Vince, on the GoToMeeting?
None that I can see, but anybody else have any questions? Okay, good.
John tells me he has put the picture of the eggs on the. Is it on the YouTube? Or I put the link on the chat. The link for the eggs is on the chat room link.
And there's also the picture of the window. The chat. Oh. What chat link?
Where have you put
on the Skype?
On the Skype. The link is on the Skype link.
No. I don't see it there yet.
Wait, he made a mistake. He posted to himself, it looks like it.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Now, okay, carry on with the question.
I've been reading about the initial fundamental plasma creation, the process, and I have a question that came from in my mind about the matter and the antimatter. Since the matter is the weaker plasma, and the antimatter is the remaining stronger magnetic fields plasma. Sorry.
I think you need to turn your speaker down or something. We're getting a strong echo coming through. Is that possible?
Maybe. Just a moment.
Try that to turn the monitor down a bit there. It might help with the echo. Sorry.
It's okay. And now, is it clear?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you very much.
Okay. So my question is, being the antimatter, the second to sorry, my English.
We don't call it antimatter.
Missing.
We call it the principle and transition.
You what? Sorry.
We do not use antimatter. As Marco says, there is no anti. It's a reduction in the strength.
But in the book, when you explain the process, you say that the first plasma is matter. The second.
Yes, this is book one because we had to open the knowledge to start with. Okay. But if you go further in the book number 2 and 3, we explain that there is no antimatter or no black holes or dark matter. It's one plasma which opens up and is a different strength from the origin to its manifestation. Origin is the principal matter. The manifestation is the matter state, and between the two is the transition matter. So plasma starts at a certain point, certain strength of package. As it releases its field three-dimensionally, till it appears in the eye of a beholder. What is matter to you is not matter to somebody else. So from the point of origin to the point of manifestation is called the transition. We don't call anything antimatter.
Okay, but the principle, the understanding that I understand that you maintain maintain the three plasmas that hold together to make the principal plasma.
Yes, the principal plasma, in fact, is one plasma as it radiates out. This is what we were talking about this week in the lab. This up and down quarks is all nonsense. Because if the up and down quarks is reality, then Earth is up quark, and I think the Saturn should be down quark. And we have a lot of quarks in the plasma of the solar system. The principal or the center of what you call a black hole is the sun. And as it radiates its field, according to where these fields come to become matter or a Ganser state of the matter, then they manifest themselves and they appear. So there is no difference between the plasma of a solar system and the plasma of an electron or a proton. It's just so you have the principle, which is the star. You have the gap between the star and the Earth, which is a transition field. And then when it becomes matter, it becomes Earth, then it's a matter strength. So there is no antimatter or a dark matter. It's plasma. But in a way, in the first book, we coming with the whole idea from the beginning this way, we would have created a lot of problem with the physics, the world of physics and science at the time when we wrote the book. As we opened the knowledge, we had to get a footing in. Now we open the book, we open the knowledge, then we explain it more because now you can understand the difference. So there was something on the, I don't usually go on the, I was just passing on Skype and I saw something popping up, somebody putting a post, unusual to my habit. I went and have a look what it says. And it was something to do with the plasma and what's atom plasma or a molecule plasma. And I wrote a few lines, and I've seen there are some comments on it this morning because it came back to me. A plasma of a molecule is no different than a plasma of an atom, but with more mass. And the field, gravitational field of the matter of the plasma on the surface is equal to what you call the matter strength, but it's not converted to matter. It stays in a Ganser state. What this means, Gans, is a plasma carries a gravitational magnetic field strength on its surface at the point of interaction of, let's say, copper oxide. You don't have a gravitational magnetic plasma of copper and oxygen separately inside each other. If you get a copper on its own in a gas state, you'll find out its gravitational magnetic field strength on its point of manifestation is different than a copper oxide, because it's the field strength which appears. That's what I explained in the earlier on. We'll make a condition curtains or boxes where gravitational magnetic field in that box is equal to copper, to gold, or to whatever you like. Because when the fields come and you can block it or you can connect it at other strength, then you create them GANs, and then you can easily convert it into matter. So its transportation of a total mass is easier than transportation of little by littles. In so many ways, if you can make a containment for the plasmas in your lab, you have one plasma. There are not pieces of plasma in the reactor, in the containment tank. You take from it the amounts you need according to what you need. This is what we are doing now in the lab. In the lab, we are originally we had a 4 centimeter gap as a measurement with a 6 millimeter tube. Now that we have 13 cores on the set on the floor, we have 8 cores plus 5 inner cores. So now we multiply the 13 by 4 millimeters, which is 52 centimeters of pipe. So we feed 52 centimeters of hydrogen as one bar into the system. We don't choose who takes all of it, and some don't take some of it, and how they react. The systems will take what they need to convert to reach a condition. Yesterday we saw the same. One set of star system does not hardly creates any visible data in respect to X and Y, but we see the other one continuously changing. And after now it can be seen, could be a pattern. Suddenly the second system pinches all the flux from the first one, and the total amount goes up without any X's and Y's being changed. You've seen it, it can be repeated. So the plasma works in its totality, not in part of it. So quarks and antimatter and matter is a nonsense in the plasma world of science. It's what you need to produce. As I said earlier, the quark in the plasma of the sun is Earth, the Jupiter, the Saturn, and down quarks must be all the cosmic dust or something else. This has been imaginary jobs with people who didn't understand, but it's been in a way good because it explained the physics at the time, the level of understanding of the matter. You don't have an antimatter. Where is the antimatter? What is antimatter? It's got to go opposite to matter. Nothing goes opposite. The flux flow in the solar system is what goes up, and when it becomes matter or GANs, then it has a gravitational magnetic field as a package that it can interact with the package of the sun and be attracted back into it. So how do the quarks be made, or up and down quarks? These are by the field which get to a point that they get attracted back to the center. This is what whoever came up with. It was like the theory of the black hole eats everything up. The matter zone, or what the things they think they see in the plasma, they call it up and down quarks. These are literally a bigger scale. The fields which have converted to matter state or near matter state as a field like a gas state in the plasma of the proton, and they manifest themselves as a slightly different entity. So there is no antimatter. Matter
seems like
is
I have to read more to the end of the 3 books.
Yes, in a way you have to. Sorry about that. But we had to speak the language of the science when we wrote the first book, that we could expand further on it. And this is the purpose. I think thanks to Dirk, he's made a lot of effort to make this one as much as we could physically visible, or at least explain it physically visible. He spent hours and days. I think he made so many hundreds of pictures, and one by one we had to go look and see what it is right and what it could give, transfer the knowledge without creating misunderstanding. And I think he's done a good job. Thanks very much to Dirk and all his effort. But this is the way it is. We have to put a physical structure to it that it could explain them all the understanding. And then if you look at the book number 3, we show the shape of the real shape of the plasma, the real shape of a proton, the way it opens up in 3-dimensionally, spherically. And if you understand the way the fields come out, then the interaction of the fields is not continuously the same. It's very much like tectonic plates. They fields find a friction point, and when they can cross that friction point, they move on, and then they create another friction point. This is how actually, as I was saying to the knowledge seekers this week, this is the noise, the heartbeat of the earth created. This is how the heartbeat of the sun is created. There's an interaction, friction, then they go. But this, because it's homogeneous on this level of the sun, it's a rhythm. It's a continuous rhythm, the same. So, in fact, the noise is the interaction of the fields, which they rub against each other, and it gets to a point that the friction passes a point that it moves on. And like the light, which is one of these products, the noise is another product. So this is what we call the heartbeat of the sun, or the heartbeat of the earth. It's due to the interaction of the fields. And when they rub each other, when they move against each other, which one is a matter or which one is antimatter? In fact, they're both fields, which their interaction leads to the noise and to the light and the manifestation of the matter in the outer boundaries of their fields. Any other question? I'm waiting for Vince to come up with this question. Good morning, Vince. Is there any question? Oh, Luciano, sorry. Hello?
I usually have good questions, I thought.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Kesh. I'm here, but I'm just listening.
Oh, there
to
he
you.
is. I didn't hear him come on.
Because it's too late today for questions. Because, as you know, me and Vince have had the same issue. Once we remove from the containers the fatty thing, whatever that is, and we put in a regular container, that fatty thing disappears. So the logical question is why? I mean, I'm assuming that when someone would like to obtain the fatty thing, would like to keep it as oil or whatever, grease. So it's disappearing. So maybe you would like to advise us why.
You move it from the environment which created it. If you look, if you've been careful to look enough, because I tell that to the knowledge seekers here often, is that if you look at, if you have a number of cups next to each other, all the cups and the structure on them doesn't stay constant. As the field in each container changes, it changes the one next door and 2 doors down and 3 boxes further down. So in changing the environment, even if you look, the texture of it, sometimes you have a fat and then you have no fat and then you have another fat. So what do? You move a gas, which is magnetic gravitational field-based entity, into the environment which is not for it to keep its balance. So it returns back into its gas state by absorbing the energy and fields from the environment of where you put it. If you can repeat, if you take the fat from the top, the amino acid, and don't put it on a dry plate. If you can keep it in another salt moisture which comes from the original one you kept, you should be able to maintain it. And so you have to, it goes back to what we always say, is creating the condition. You change the environment, you change the condition, so you have a new material. This is what we looked at yesterday.
Yes, I do understand.
For the new reactor. Carry on.
Yes, I do understand that, but you don't understand the essence of the question. So if I am spending time and effort to create the grease, the whatever is that, protein, liquid protein, whatever you name it, you do not need it to keep it in like a water salt environment. You want to extract it and, I don't know, put it in a closed container or do something with it. Because if you are forced to keep it in like a water solution or whatever, that means the practicality of usage is almost zero. So the whole point.
Stop. I think you missed a big point. Maybe I can explain it in a different way.
I can hear well.
Can you explain to me why the protein of man is in 80% of the water liquid of the human body?
Can you speak louder, please? Sorry.
Why the protein which makes the body of man is in the liquid water of 80-85% water of the body of the man? You have to keep the same condition. You have to keep liquid in it. We have the same discussion, as I said with John yesterday, and with the knowledge seekers. We cannot put the gans of the CO2 on its own without water. It sticks to the wall. You like to do things which is beyond the limitation of the physics. The gases, if you want to hold it, you have to know how to hold it. You want to keep you carry the protein, you have to create this condition of holding. You cannot just move it because you want to move it. It will not happen. The body, the protein of the man is not just protein on its own. It's in 80% water, which is the containment of it, the connection of it. Protein cannot exist on its own if you move it because you give it different environment. This is why that's why I say it's your schizophrenic condition. Why they say bread, even it's dry, there is so much water in it. That water is the essence of connecting the gases together of the protein. On this planet, water, because of its gravitational magnetic field of the oxygen, has this property of holding the gases together. Now you move it, you change it, and disappears because you do not put it in the right container. As I was explaining in our work in the workshop or in the lab. In physics, you say the gas takes the shape of its container. Now you put one molecule of hydrogen in a bottle. It takes the shape of it. You break the bottle. That will take the space in the room where you are. You break the house. Take the roof off. It takes the size of it spans the whole, what do you call it, the Earth atmosphere, if there was no other magnetic field pressures to hold it and condition it. Everything has a container, and the reason it stays in that container, and why it stays in that container. You can't take the protein which is developed in the liquid of the water, which we add the salt to it, and just say why it doesn't exist, because you change the condition. For it to exist, for a human body to exist, in this condition of the Earth gravitational magnetic field, you need the medium of water. And the reason for it, the medium of water, is oxygen gravitational magnetic field properties. Why doesn't it stay? You put the water in there, a bit salt in it, you can hold it. It'll be very interesting if you have different setups, which we have here, like in the lab, and you take proteins from different containers and put them together. This is what I call the truth about the creation of life. You will start seeing if you can hold the condition of the salt condition of the water in your container, beginning of a new life. You become God, you become the creator. Because now you have put the egg and the sperm together. But you need, it's the essence, essential part to keep a protein in matter conditioned GANs to have water, to have H2O in it. Because the oxygen bond is needed. When you put in a plastic jar, you introduce a 2CH bond and it cannot hold. If you can make a container of oxygen, you find that your material will hold. It's an essential part of life on this planet and the ways it's been structured. You cannot just once you made the protein move it. It's not a stone. It's a living thing. It transfers energy, it receives energy, and that energy needs to be dynamic. And that dynamic condition is created by the water. That's how life exists on this planet. Try to understand the totality and not go halfway. This is a schizophrenic. Your container is a matter, and your protein is a gas state. And the matter, because it's in this condition, cannot give. So the plasma of the amino acid, the fat absorbs what it needs to convert back to gas. You will see some stains left behind, but that is what comes through the process of the structure. I noticed that years ago, and that's why I can answer you straight away, because this is the reality. This is why you can't have a dried meat and then refresh it again by putting water in it. It stays because once it's lost its property, it becomes mattery, it becomes received with different condition of gravitational magnetic field strength transfer. Go back to the picture which John posted with the rings of the white rings. Then you should be able to understand why. The top layer of the nano material cannot be, once it's become the top layer, to be positioned in the bottom or somewhere in the middle of it. Because they accept a certain condition, gravitational magnetic field, to be in that top layer. Is the skin of the man the same? This is a process of the change. As I explained this before, and I was explaining to Elia last week when she was here. The inner skin can stand the transition gravitational magnetic field of the GANs. The inner skin can stand the matter, and your outer skin is the matter level gravitational magnetic field. That's why you have layers. If you had your GANs straight away sticking to your outer skin, you would not exist. This is why in the life of a man, when that state appears, when the water, disappears, and the flesh body of the man disappears. And if you mummify it and be able to hold that top layer moist, the 3 layers, you find you keep the mummy with the meat and everything. This is how the preservation is done when you find one of these big mammals in the North Pole. And it was the same shape because the water ice has that characteristic. It's made of hydrogen, oxygen, which is the balancer. So the body stays that way. This process explains a lot of things we understand in depth why we freeze things and things in frozen condition stay. Frozen condition becomes very near to the gas state of the matter holding, but it's not there yet. You can't change the environment and say, why not? You have to understand how the material exists in its original environment. You can't take a lion from Sahara and leave him in the desert and say why he doesn't live. It needs its given environment. Any protein needs a liquid environment which is based on the water. Doesn't matter how you shape it and form it, but it's got an oxygen bond somewhere. That oxygen bond allows liquidity and flow. Have I answered your question, or are you still lost?
No, I understand what you're saying, but that is triggering another question, which is, I think, related. The difference between what probably you are calling oil, I mean, what they are calling today crude oil or whatever, fuel, whatever. And the protein is that the oil is having a CH chain, in other words, a linear carbon chain with hydrogen perpendicular to the chain. And the protein has some oxygen and nitrogen. So based on...
I look at the gaseous state. Yeah, carry on.
Yeah, so the question is very logical. So somehow we can have material, matter, liquids, fuel, whatever you want to name it, in matter state, because, and obviously if you eliminate from the protein the nitrogen and the oxygen, obviously you are getting this linear carbon chain. So how this will be able to exist without the environment, as you name it? Because technically you extract it from its environment.
You don't see a dynamic sugar. The CH bond, it still exists somewhere. If you look at down the chain, is or operates within the environment of oxygen, gravitational magnetic field strength. That's why when you burn something, you need oxygen. You cannot burn when there is no oxygen. The burning process, the disposal of energy comes through oxygen. There's no other way you can do it. You can have as much CH bond as you like. Even in the body of the man, the conversion of sugar needs that water, which is oxygen carrier in the body. You can't run away from it. It's not just because you have a CH, you cannot do anything. Even in the combustion, you go, look at the total composition of the fuels used without even you pressurizing it. When you burn, you have no oxygen, you have no burn, you have no fire. So the bond is oxygen for the to disperse the energy. In your system, when you put it against a plastic or whatever, that dynamism doesn't exist. So you find your try the ceramic. You'll have a very interesting position. Put it in the vacuum condition of the ceramic, and then you'll understand more.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks very much. Next question. That was easy. This time we got away. Okay, next question. Hello?
Any more questions from the GoTo meeting? Lisa?
Hi, yeah, I have a question. About the reactor, the plasma, and how the, I mean, for the power generation, the generator, how the power generated, I mean, how the magnetic field like release our like electromagnetic field to produce the power. I just don't know how to produce or generate it.
Yeah, the generator, in the generators, you only create, plasma only creates DC current. you don't produce an AC current. So to produce energy, you have to interfere with the fields which is around or in the environment of the plasma, and in two different points of it. So whatever you get in the dynamic spherical field, it is totally on this DC basis. You want to change it to AC use, it's a different thing. But if once you create a dynamic plasma in your reactor, and you can take the potential difference between the two and the current flow from the center to out, then you create a DC power. While you're at it, I can explain to you the generator, the power generator, which is in the process of being done by the Italians for the foundation now, is that the designers, we were with them this week, they have decided to put the whole generator, the whole reactor in a transparent tube. So in fact, you will see your reactor, how it operates. You see all the mechanism inside the transparent tube. So when you carry a reactor, you just carry a transparent tube. And they have made a design, and it's called Star 1, with a star as a center. So a lot of people can see actually through operation of the reactor and the setup of it. On DC, you directly tap between the two different set points, which means that inner core and outer core, you connect. This is the way you tap energy out of it. This week we had a condition in the Iranian reactor where we set the system at 10 volts and I think it's 1.5 something in that region, I think it was. And when on Saturday morning the system adjusted itself to 5 volts and passed the limitation of the amperage of the system. So it was past 5.26 amps, which is a switch limit in the power supply. So you'll find out that energy production originally was only 12 amps. The power consumption, when you multiply the power, the voltage and the current, and when you go 5 volts and 5 point something amps, we passed 25 something watts. But one thing I forgot to do was to notice if it's a minus or plus, which shows a system becomes a generator. We've seen this before in the power system. So if the plasma moves in a different direction or rotation, you will get a friction or the potential difference between the plasma magnetic field strength and a current flow between two positions, which, because we have two cores, that allows this in this Iranian reactor to happen. So you're not looking into cutting off the fields as is normal with the AC. You're looking into the position difference in the plasma as it goes through the transition time. You take one transition point, or you take like a near enough principle, and you take the matter position, and then this is your voltage, and the rate of the flow becomes your current. But this is again, it's in the plasma condition. You have to look for position, not what do you call it, field cutting, as is normal with the DC, with the AC. In our talks in the lab this week, I was explaining that there's a misunderstanding about the position of the electron and a proton. The assumption is that the energy absorbed by the electron would changes its position. And if you look at the size of the electron and a proton, proton is a huge thing, and all the energy which comes to even electric current, you see the motion, the vibration of the electron, as you call it in this level. This is dictated by the proton, not by the electron itself. Because most of the energy which comes is absorbed by the proton. And in changing its field strength, it pushes or absorbs or attracts the electron back to itself, and it creates its positional direct position. Even though electron has its own gravitational magnetic field, but it's so minute to absorb all the energy which is coming. Is partially correct, but most of the energy goes to proton. It's the proton which dictates the position and the vibration of the electron. So, but on the other hand, most of the electrons are of the same gravitational magnetic field strength, so you create a loop between them. And the vibration is automatic across the one where the field is released and absorbed. So this is another misconception in the world of electronics. Electron vibration, which you call it to create electrical current, comes from the expansion and the change in the plasma of the proton mainly than electron itself. So you look for a gap between the two, electron and the proton, in what energy you want to absorb, or you look in the plasma of the proton itself or the plasma of your reactor. And you choose the two position where you want to have the what energy, what power you need. You don't have these huge differences, because in your reactor, you even see it here in test, is the negative order of magnitude in respect to the center of the plasma, which gives you the strength of the field at the point. As you go further to the center, the gravitational magnetic field is stronger, so the order of magnitude goes higher. The power is the order of magnitude, is not by multiplied by. So, for example, I explained this before. If you take the surface of the proton and you go down by 1 centimeter, you get 10 to the power of, well, let's say, 1. If you go another further, 1 centimeter, the order of magnitude now is 10 bit to the power of 1,000. And if you go 1 more centimeter, it goes to the power of 9. It's not by multiplication. So if you choose a position in the reactor, that you understand the properties of it at that point, and the field flow from that point to the another point, you get the plasmatic current and the plasmatic voltage, which is different now. And as Marco said, but we still measure it in the matter state, because our systems are set in the matter state. The sound is really bad, they say.
I think.
Hello? Maybe better without headphones. Hello? Are we there?
Hello, Mayron. We can hear you. Yes, some of the sound has been, there's been distracting noise in the background, and some of the sound has not come through as clear as it should, but it's not too bad. We're doing okay. How are we doing with time there? Are you guys...
I'm going to hand over the microphone to the noise seeker to explain what's happened here and what we're developing.
Okay.
Okay, it's goodbye for me, and I'll hand over to the victim.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Kesh.
You're welcome.
Is that Marco there? Is that Marco? Sorry.
Yeah, Marco.
Okay, thank you.
Do you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you pretty good there now.
Okay. It's very difficult to say something more after these 2 hours and more of explanation of Mr. Cash. Thank you very much for this teaching. In a way, he explained all process of the creation. And well, what can I add? We are doing experiments here in our lab where we are trying to replicate and to achieve these conditions that we are explaining in a theory. And in a way, we are moving step by step forward. This process is slow. First of all, we have to understand our language and our terminology. And that's why the gentleman before, he asked about antimatter. And this was first explanation 5 years ago, but this teaching goes forward, and we don't call it antimatter anymore, we call it principal matter. And to understand all this, you have to follow and put some effort to understanding of this technology. So in a way, with today's explanation, we found out there was in a previous workshops, Mr. Cash several times explained, or he was describing that soon we will become refugees, and I couldn't imagine what this means, but in a way today the explanation was that we are in a normal, in natural way in our solar system has its twin star, and this is normal process in the universe. So once also these twin stars will come together, and maybe a few years ago there was some statement that this technology will not be accepted out of the I don't know the exact terminology, out of the joy, but out of the fear. And I think I don't want to spread any fear that across through this workshop, but if you want to survive in the future, we will have to develop this technology and use it to move out of our planet Earth and out of our solar system when these events of coming together of two solar systems will happen. Yeah, this is just normal cycle, natural cycle. And
so this has obviously happened before in the past, and
it happens all the time in the universe. You can in different galaxies, and it happens between proton and an electron. This is the process that is repeating all the time, and it is natural process. But,
right, and that's probably why we've seen so many different events on Earth that can't be explained, and they're still trying to look for answers.
Yes, in a way, yes. And what we are trying to do here in our lab, we have this possibility to use 8 reactors now. And we created 2 star formations, like 1 reactor in the center and 320 degrees around this central reactor. So 4 of them, it's 1 star formation, 4 of them, another star formation. and we put them together. And in a way, we created twin star formation. We are maintaining plasma in these reactors, and we are trying to build plasma even more in these reactors. And these reactors are just temporary condition. It just helps us to create plasma, but the end is not to have these physical reactors. This is the part of the process. The end result is the plasma inside the reactors. And as Mr. Cash explained before, when we built our plasma, we can dismantle these reactors, and we will be able to maintain plasma without any envelope, let's say. So the interesting point that was explained only in theory till now is how the matter is created. And in a way it was explained that matter is created by conversion of fields. When loose, they strengthen and they come to the matter level, they appear as matter. And in a way, we have the possibility to observe this phenomenon here in our reactors. One of the reactors has a window in it, and we observed like drops of material in this window. And this is inside the reactor, it should be a vacuum condition. We vacuumed several times this reactor, and this matter was still there at the window. At one time it disappears, but then it appears again. So in a way, we are witnessing here this phenomena of fields conversion to the matter. Well, I hope that we will move forward with our experiments with building our plasma, and do other experiments, and we will try to share this with others. And I think this is quite normal process, and people who are doing these experiments and trying to follow us, they understand us. But when there are newcomers and the first time they're listening to us, it's most probably it's very difficult to understand us. We are using new terms, new terminology, and for people who are used to mainstream physics explanations, it's strange for them. But in a way, people who are following us from the beginning, I think they understand us. They are replicating our experiments. People are doing experiments in their homes, in their kitchens, and they create nanomaterials, they create guns. And, well, they can observe this. So this is good to have personal experience, and without personal experience, I think you cannot understand clearly. You have to try it. So, in a way, I hope that you will follow us, and we'll try to move forward with our understanding. I'll pass to, I don't know,
Thank you, Marco.
Yeah, thank you.
Hello, guys. This is Armin. Any questions that I can answer?
Hi, Armin. Thanks for coming on here. You see, there was a couple of questions on the live stream here. Let me see if I can find it. It's back a little bit.
It's like everybody understands everything now. That's good. No questions. That means everybody understands.
I think people are more in a state of shock. They're not quite sure what to say. It's so much information comes out, and it's in a way that's not normal for us to understand, like in the sense of maggrav fields and other such things that are common in our language. So I think it makes people, it sort of sends our brain into a bit of a tizzy because we have to function in a different way in order to try to understand these concepts. So I think it's difficult and sometimes lends to sort of a brain shock. So we have a question here, for example, from Austin79, who says, does anyone know if the GANs of methane and GANs of hydrogen can be turned back into their gases for use in cooking, heating, fuel, etc.? Is that a question that makes sense?
You know what? I will answer it differently.
Sure, it can, but the question is, how do you obtain the CH4 GANs? Here's at this time that no one does know how to do it.
Let me explain to you one thing. Plasmatic magnetic fields, they become matter. Matter is a containment of plasmatic magnetic fields. It is. So just understand, we blanketed ourselves so much with the matter that we don't see, we don't feel, how these magnetic fields become matter, and the matter you can transform to magnetic fields. It's very easy to understand. The GANs are another state of the matter, but they are magnetic and gravitational fields containment. So what I want to say that you have to free yourself from the matter and understand the fields. Because matter, when you open up, you're opening up the fields. Like when we put the any material into the casting, we just opening it up the fields. We create nanolayers. These layers creates GANs. GANs creates plasmatic magnetic fields. Can I answer your question, or I should continue?
Well, if they're plasmatic magnetic fields, and we're talking about the GANs, and the GANs is just a spherical representation of the fields of that matter, then we need to find a different way to measure the GANs to basically see what we have, because that's what a lot of people want to know. What is this matter? But to do that, we need to understand what the fields are. So is there another way to measure that we could relate it back to the matter condition?
What you want? You just from the matter you created GANs. Now you want a GANs to create matter back to matter?
That's what
Actually,
I was wondering about that question too.
Plasmatic magnetic fields to create matter. Yeah, you have to add energy to create it back.
Right, which is what you can do, for example, with copper oxide. You can add energy to it, you can heat it up and add hydrogen, and you'll convert it back to copper. But why would you want to do that would be the question, I suppose.
Because people are looking for a industrial solution for the GANs, and if they don't understand, then
Industrial
they
solution.
use it as a matter.
Well, they want
Actually,
the methane, for example, methane GANs. What do you do with the methane GANs to make it useful in terms of ordinarily to generate power to? Well, most people think of burning. That's the obvious thing that to make a fuel and burn it. That's what everybody wants to do, and this is what we have to get away from, right? Go ahead, sorry.
All you have to do, GANs, to rotate high speed. And that's what we are doing to see the interaction.
Good point.
You just understand, GANs is another state of the matter. So in smaller scales, but they are magnetical and gravitational fields containing. So it's all about the fields. Fields can become matter, matter can become fields. Is that simple enough?
That was very direct and very simple. It's all in the details. Devil's in the details, as the saying goes.
Yes.
So.
Details, you create the details.
You guys are obtaining there in Italy all kind of things.
Lucian, what is the question?
Okay, so let me carry on. So I think that the question was how do you obtain only CH4 GANs, not other residuals?
Use different materials. We just explained, all the matter contains plasma. Now open it up.
Could it be
slightly
possible
different magnetic field going to create slightly different matter. Mr. Kesh always says that our chemical table, periodic table, there are so many materials that we know. Because if we create slightly different magnetic field, maybe we can create thousands of different other materials, which have.
But not only that, but the isotopes of them too.
Yes, correct.
As many as there is stars.
Well, so if you have, let's say, an oxygen atom, the neutrons that are in that oxygen atom can be of varying plasmatic fields. So that's going to dictate a different isotope of that oxygen in terms of its plasmatic magnetic strength.
Correct. We can create different atomic weights, that means we can create different materials. It's all about, fields. We are attached too much to the matter, sometimes we don't see what's going on around us. But the fields are there. I think on Sunday we're going to have another workshop. So I'll prepare, several videos, and which I'm going to send it to Rick that, he can show it, that I can explain more detail.
I'd like to remind people that you're going to present a workshop on Saturday, correct? At 8 a.m. Euro time.
Correct. 8 a.m. Yes, 8 Sunday. 8 a.m. for me. Right? Sunday. Yeah,
Sunday.
Saturday, right, Armin?
It was
Saturday.
Saturday your time.
Saturday.
Okay, let's get that straight so that people don't get confused like us. So Saturday your time be Friday night our time, Friday night 11 p.m. Pacific time, I guess.
Yes.
Okay, and that workshop will be, I believe, primarily on creation of nanomaterials and GANs.
Yes. And you can create nanomaterials that, you know, it gives you results better.
Right on. And I understand that Armin is considered more or less the expert knowledge seeker on creation of nanomaterials now, only because you had to do it so much, I think. You've been burdened with that job, perhaps. But I understand you've done it quite a bit there and are up on it, let's say, better than most because you've immersed yourself in it. So
there are certain ways that you can create better nano coating, you know, that, you know, it lasts you longer. You know, you have to create layers. So I'll explain it deeper.
Great, we're looking forward to that. That'll be interesting.
Okay. I'm going to pass.
Hopefully, be able to do some video sharing so that because I wanted to show Armin that video I showed you guys last night, Rick, with the carbon and the 70 kilovolts.
Right, yeah, that would be interesting, and there might be other people that could offer some pictures or videos back and forth during that show, so we can see what others are creating. They can ask questions and so on.
Definitely, guys, show your work too. You know, it's not only one way. It's hundreds of ways. You know, just find out the right way. We show it to you, because you have to know.
Yeah, it seems every few days or week or so, there's a new person or group that's showing new examples of the same experiments, but done similarly, but not exactly the same, with slightly different results, and people are learning what to do, what not to do, and it's quite an exchange of information occurring at this point. It's interesting.
I'm going to pass the microphone to John. He's too anxious, you know, to grab the microphone.
Thank you, Armin.
Okay, thanks, Armin. We'll talk to you tomorrow. For me.
I wanted to add one small aspect, Armin.
John, could you speak into the microphone a little bit better?
Yeah.
There? Thank you.
Well, I'm
sorry.
Is it better now? Move here.
No, it sounds like it's further away.
No.
Oh, so I'm not. Wait. I think the problem.
Yeah, that's better. That's getting better.
Way better.
The problem should be on the computer because we have a microphone on our head and it has not been set to be used. So I'm now you should hear me much better, even if I move.
Oh, gee, that's better.
Oh, gee, yes, wow.
Shall we restart the workshop again, guys?
Should be. In fact, okay.
Just kidding.
We are, in fact, in certain conditions. Well, anyway, I'll go on. What I wanted to say, because Vince asked got to a question of the different atomic structure of some material, and let's say oxygen. You have different oxygen with the different composition of the neutron inside. In fact, even if you take one oxygen with a certain composition of neutron inside, you have different atoms that occur because the fields in each of the neutron, protons, and electrons could be different. So you have a different level of oxygen. Even if you take oxygen 16, you can have oxygen 16, but that has been produced by grass or by a tree will be different. So that's the next step is understanding that you have one element in the Mendeleev table, but even if you take only the one element with a certain amount of neutron inside the core, it can be in different manner with different strengths of the magnetic and gravitational fields of each of the elements inside. So that's a whole spectrum coming up in if you want to start to measure fields at another level.
John, could you explain that again, please? It was just,
okay.
I didn't understand. Yeah, okay, so let me see if I can understand so you can see where.
Okay, wait. Go
on. So if you have oxygen 16, you're going to have varying isotopes of that oxygen 16, but you will have a range of fields.
You
so
have
it could be any.
If you have different isotopes, which physics sees now for the oxygen, for example, you have what is called heavier or lighter oxygen because of the number of neutrons inside the core. What I was trying to explain is that for one composition, one isotope of oxygen, and I took the example of oxygen 16, you have also different magnetic and gravitational fields for each of those oxygen. And because you can have different magnetic and gravitational field different in any part of what's in the core of that atom. So you have 8 proton, 8 neutron, you have 8 electron. Each of them can have can be at a different strengths of magnetic and gravitational fields. So in one isotope, you have also a range of different possibilities because of the fields different in one oxygen and another.
Right, and when you add another molecule, when you add it into a molecule, let's say use solution CH4, then the isotopes become quite a large number. Even though in the matter state, we only see it as a CH4.
Yes, and the thing is that the magnetic and gravitational fields have never been measured, and the distinction of one element due to the magnetic and gravitational field being stronger or lighter than another has never been distinguished.
So basically,
right. So how about measuring? Be able to measure to be able to see what, like in terms of the GANs, right? The GANs won't be in the same composition as what the matter state is in because it is in a plasma state. So it has the fields required for that matter state, but not the compositions. That's correct, isn't it?
Well, the composition. Okay. Pass to Mr.
Let me explain this in a simple way. As the gravitational magnetic field goes by what we call the mass. What does this mean? When you put 4 more hydrogen into an atom of carbon, which you make CH4, now each plasma of a hydrogen adds its principal matter strength, mass, or entity, quantity, into the center mass of the carbon. So the center mass becomes bigger. And that's how now you have a bigger center mass. The expansion, the volume, the size of the plasma expands to a new level. So if, for example, you can imagine that, let's say, the center mass of the boundary, the matter presentation or manifestation of the matter of the hydrogen was, let's say, at 40 millimeter. Now that you add 4 hydrogen and each one, let's say, has the diameter or mass of 1, now the manifestation of the mass is at 44, not at 40. So by adding the mass, you extend the boundary. And that's how, at that boundary, at that level, then the plasma interacts with another plasma. You don't put a plasma of a hydrogen inside the plasma of the carbon. You add into the center mass or center volume. So now, in that level, when you come to another CH4, then that's what it manifests itself as a CH4. When you add an oxygen or another element to it, then as a GANS, all that moves in to the fraction increase in the what do you call it, in the size of the envelope. It's not in the matter state that they link up on the electrons bound, double bond, and single bond. You increase the center mass. But center mass in a given environment has a given size. So you can always take like a volume of a H out of the CH4 to a CH3. Because in the environment has to allow it. If it allows it, it happens. In the whole matter state, the temperature and pressure, which themselves are magnetic field dependent, but in a matter level, you interact between matter fields, the strength. When you do with the plasma, you interact with matter plasma strength. It's a big, big difference. Temperature and pressure. It's all magnetic field based. It's nothing, something extra. But it's the pressure and magnetic field in a given magnetic gravitational field strength. So you can have a temperature at a principal matter and a pressure at the principal matter and any position in the transition. But when it happens in a given strength, then it becomes a pressure or a temperature. So you add volumes or mass of. If you read the book in respect to definition of the mass, in one of the books I've explained, you have gravity, which is a pulling, and you have magnetical, which is the repulsion. Gravity always sits in the center. Magnetic field goes out. The difference between the two strength gives you the mass.
Right, and that's why we can't measure, or we're not measuring the other side, because I remember what you're talking about in the book. You explained it.
Yes,
where there's some fields that we don't measure.
Yes, but let me explain something. I was explaining this in private to Marco this week in the lab. When you have gravity, is internal interaction, absorption, going from one field to another of the same strength. When you put two magnetical fields together, you have two forces, not one forces. This is the two repulsion on the back end where the field comes in. And then at the same time, in a plasma condition, you have two exit points which face each other too. Some of the fields interact to create the gravity. Some of the fields still stay back-to-back opposite, entry or exit. The exit or what you call the North Pole, goes up to the North Pole of the plasma. The entries which are weaker create the South Pole. And that difference creates a flow of the magnetic field through the center of the plasma. This is something which the world of physics physicians don't understand. Maybe it's for the first time I can explain it this way that you make it much clearer. The gravitational field in the center, the similar poles of the plasma or fields, do not create the motion of the plasma or the field flow of the plasma. The field flow is created by the similar poles being entries or exits. If there are entries, they go to the North Pole. If there are exits, they go to the North Pole. If there are entries, they go to the South Pole because they can create the field flow. And this is why even when you look at the plasma of the Earth, you have a different rotation of the fields in the southern hemisphere and northern hemisphere. It's primarily due to the exit poles. If it's an entry or exit pole, and they always go in the same direction, that's why you got the equator line, but you still keep the same atmosphere. Because in the point of separation, the fields, the plasmatical magnetic fields, go in the direction because they are weaker. If you have two exit poles facing each other, they always are stronger. And if you have two entry points, they're always weaker. So that gives the dynamism and the motion and rotation of the plasma. And this is what I have explained in the lab to the knowledge seekers. Now you put this together, you add another plasma next to it. The pull, the dynamism between the motion between the north and the south section attracts the primary mass, or what you call principal mass, of that element into the center to become part of the gravitational. But at the same time, it creates a new layer in respect to its environment. In the future, when the scientists will develop measuring equipment for the new plasmas, or what we call GANs, they will report you. You'll do it by measurement according to the same atmosphere. You say, such a Tesla atmosphere condition, the diameter of the plasma of CO2 is this. The diameter of the plasma of CH4 is this. It's a mass ratio, and that mass ratio creates a different environment, a different size envelope. That's why in a matter state, then you change into the fields of the friction, what you call pressures of them, forces of them, or the interaction, what you call the heat of them.
Right, because it's always depending on the environment that they're in.
Yes, at the point of manifestation. When you are traveling from one point of principal matter to a point of manifestation, to be manifested, the field forces still exert. But it's not a field, only in the matter strength. If the field, the environmental field, is equal to the plasma, then you manifest yourself. This is how you become cosmic dust and the rest. Because don't forget, this turbulence creates a lot of different fields and all over the place. It's very much like a hurricane. Everything goes in, and what comes out is the balance of the fields. I'll give the headphone back to John.
So, explanation were there. Do you have any more question?
And does anybody else have any more questions from GoToMeeting? I see that David posted a question in the chat. John, did you want to try to answer that one?
I think that's a very short question. I'm assuming that Mr. Takeshi was referring to the diameters.
Lost that there, Lucian.
Still there, Lucien? You're breaking up.
Reactors.
We didn't hear anything.
All we heard
Let's try
was
again.
reactors.
Okay, I will try again. It's better now?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So I was saying that I believe that Mr. Kesh was referring to the dynamic reactors.
No, it's
No.
talking about the plasma.
No,
The
I think he was
plasma.
referring to GANs.
Gans of the plasma, yeah.
Was that the end of that question? Was
it's
that the
very
end of
short.
Lucient? That's it there?
Yeah, it was just a statement, I guess.
Okay. Got it.
Let me go into a bit of depth in this some of the things we discussed this morning. In most of the reactors you run, you have only one reactor. You don't see interactions. You observe what is different from the second before. In the foundation, we observe interactions. I think most probably the knowledge seekers has to explain to you now is that the new setup, what we discussed, that we put a new star formation. Up to now, we had 2 sensors. The 2 sensors up to this week were attached to a frame, one to the center core and one to the boundary core. The new data and the new setting for the detectors is that they are measuring the environmental plasmatic magnetic field. What this means, they are not attached to any corner, they're standing free. One is facing one core setting, which is a half cores, and the other one is facing the full core setting, the full spheres. And in running of the reactors, as I said earlier, we see that one set is building plasma, and then the other set just grabs it, and it adds to its strength. But we don't see reduction in the field of the one which has lost this peak. So what happens? One system is just creating plasma magnetic fields available, and the other one takes it without disturbing the balance. And we observe this only in the environmental section. I mean, it's not that we are observing one core. We are observing the total environment around the 2 cores. And it's strange, or in the way the detectors are set, we observe what is coming into the environment of the plasma too, from the lab environment. And we follow if it's addition or loss, or is it the increase. And you'll see that cores or reactors or plasmas share fields without losing any of theirs to the next atom or next plasma of entity, by allowing it to take without damaging their own. This is very fundamental if you understand the process. Not necessarily just because you give, you're going to lose. We don't see drop in the field, we see again increase further on. At the same time, what we noticed yesterday and today, I explained, when we put the motors on, we don't see an increase. We don't see a change in the detectors. And yesterday, when the knowledge seekers walk amongst or between the cores, we don't see any reduction. So these fields at this level do not interfere with the body of the man, or body of the man's magnetic gravitational field does not interact or change the fields that much that is noticeable. It doesn't mean that it doesn't exist, but it's not noticeable. So this explains why we can and we move in the environment without exchanging it, and it'll be the same in the spaceships, the space reactors, or whatever you want to call it. I had a question raised. I'm going to answer it to you now because of what I said earlier on. I think Marco made a note of it. The increased activities around the Earth atmosphere is twofold. Partially to move out, and partially to move those who don't, is not visible to man and they don't have the ability to move. I explained this some time ago to the knowledge seekers. Soon the atmosphere of the Earth will be bright, very bright. And this is not just because of the magnetic gravitational field of the star system, but for those who are prepared to give hand in the time of need. But there is a selection point. And that selection point is decided by soul of the man, not by the physicality of the man, not the status of the man. You'll find out most of the presence will be left behind. And most of those who call themselves leaders will beg to be taken and not. This is not, as you said, I think Luciana said, this is a no more affairs. Maybe drastic for man, but no more affairs. So,
Mr. Cash?
Yes?
In that kind of case, with another plasma entity entering our plasma entity as a solar system, even though they are twinities, will they not interact at the boundary layers? And that should also create light, should it not?
It'll be too fast when it's done. Don't forget the plasma of the solar system is very thin. Even though to us as human is huge, it's very, very thin. It's more or less a shell of an egg thickness. The process is rapid. The process is very rapid. The process, because if it's very simple, you put two magnets together, and when it comes to a point of full interaction, you don't see when the other magnet moves. They're just together. The only time you really see this, you hear the noise of the click. This is a normal process and it's been repeated, and there is, like you have the emergency services, you know, when there is an accident, there is a pattern to this in the universe. Then those who understand the day of judgment, they know what the judgment is. This is not to, this is a natural process. This will repeat itself even for the man who moves on to another planet, to another destination. It will be repeated in the future.
There was a question about that, Mr. Kesh, just how often that happened. Sorry.
Let me say something. Those who brought the Noah's boat story to the man were the passengers of the Noah boat. If you understand what it means. Those who taught the man the story of the Noah's boat were the passengers of the Noah's boat. So this is the process. Repeat, Rick, please.
There is just a question regarding that, regarding how often this event happens in the universe. Is it very common?
It's a regular. It's a regular. At this moment, it's happening to millions of systems.
By regular, in your sense, do you mean, are we talking daily? Are we talking every million years? Some sort of reference.
On a daily basis.
Okay. So
see, it's a natural process.
Okay.
It just changed position, changed names.
Right. Well, how often are sentient beings threatened and helped out by other beings of the universe under these kind of conditions, let's say? Does that happen very often, or is that more of a million to one?
It's as often as you have fire in the houses. How often does the fire brigade goes out?
Yeah, that's a good comparison.
This is a normal process, but at the same time, when there is a need to save, the job is done the way there is no difference between humanity and the rest of the creations in the universe. Nations are left alone on their own till there is a time of demand. Nobody jumps and goes to Thailand when there is no tsunami. When there is a tsunami, man gets on all the doctors and scientists, whatever, get on the boat, on the plane, and get there to help. Now the position is the same. There we are. It's not just because it's us, it's any different. It's just that the man did not have the intelligence to understand what's going on. So the process is very simple. It's the whole understanding is there is a matter. It is we are talking. We see the pattern. We know is about to happen. But at the same time, man has had enough time to develop. By accident, life came to be intelligent on this planet, and now there is an intelligence. There is a need to act. But at the same time, just because we take you from the village, we don't want to produce another village condition in the space with all the problems with it. We've seen what happened. We've seen this on Earth 2 or 3 times in recent past. The state of Israel, the Jewish community, got very interested and anxious that they found a new tribe in Africa. They went and they brought all of them back into Israel, as we know, the black Israel Jews, just because to save the tribe. So we are doing the same thing. But the people who came from villages in Africa, living a village life, now they are in the state of Israel, they have to learn the life of the society. There's no difference. They have to learn the rules, which is, you know, in the desert you don't have a car and you don't have the conditions which was there. Now they have to learn how to cross the street and what it means to have a car and what it means to have a gas on the floor and a microwave. They are still the same human with the same intellect. So this is the same situation, it doesn't change. It's just that the humanity is too far behind in the village. But if you bring it in, you better teach it how to use the microwave before it gets there and blows up the microwave up. This is what is getting to avoid it. This is the process we try to get into. We are not concerned about how man worships what, in what name, and how it dresses up himself. To us, every man is naked. We just look at the soul of the man, not the physicality. A man without a hands and arm, when a baby is born, a Siamese twin with no arms, no legs, or 2 beautiful eyes and 2 legs and 2 arms, is still the same, carries the same soul. This is what matters, not the physical, saving all the handicaps or only the women or the children. It's too deep. We start teaching and we start showing the purpose, but in time, as I said, the book 1 was in language of the present. They could understand that, we could expand on it. We do the same thing. We speak originally the language of the man, and then in time we will develop and progress to where it is and what it is. And it's not unusual. It's a frequent. So as I said, the expansion, you find the people, the scientists who are looking for replicas, planet like Earth, as I always said, look at the fringes of a galaxy. If you're looking for a physical life the way man is used to. In these positions, the plasma of the star has enough room to create planets, and the planets have enough room to find a position where creation and absorption and reduction of the gases and to life can sustain. And as the magnetic gravitational field pull of the galaxy pulls the planet or the star in, as the star is doing to its own planet, then it comes the point of interaction. Not necessarily sometimes with the twin star, but with other stars which are in the same gap of space moving in. It's like you come from one motorway and the other one comes from another motorway. But it's not family, but it's another car, but you both want to get through the same tunnel. It's the same process, there is no difference. But we see this, it's observer, it can be observed in the space. Soon man will see it himself. So we are there to try to educate, but at the same time we don't want to have a African tribe with the camels and with the goats to come in the city and not knowing what the microwave is. We teach the microwave use first before we take you out into the village, into the city. There's no panic. It's just that it's the process. Man unknowingly will be taught.
On that line, Mr. Kesh, I've seen that.
We are opening the book fully. Those who cannot stand the cooking, get out of the kitchen.
Well,
I was going to ask, because the question was in the chat there in Skype. Are we talking tens of years, hundreds of years, or thousands of years?
We are talking much less. If you see so much people with a high intelligence above you flying around, You don't move house till it's not necessary, huh? You don't wait for the flood to get to the top before the whole house gets waterlogged. Yeah. So the process is, you just go, if you want to understand the process, just go back on the cycle of the disasters on the cosmic level on Earth. You get a good indication of the date, or approximate date.
26,000 years.
What happened to the dinosaurs? Count it down. One of these interactions, at that time the two stars were too far and they were in different positions in the galaxy. Now they both have moved closer into the center. At the same time there's less gap because the others are pushing. It's like an atom and molecules, huh? When you pressurize, they have to merge.
And that's why we've changed orbits to be a lower orbit in the last 20,000 years or so.
Yes, but in so many ways, in the last few seconds, there is no orbit. It all becomes one star, because the pressure push will push the electrons into the center. In so many ways, when I wrote interatomic fusion, and people couldn't understand it, is what we see in the solar systems when the planets just move into the center. A lot of papers I've written is written in the language of man, but it has an essence in the universal condition.
Right, so what we see as a solar system, we can also see as an atom, or see inside what the fields are doing. It's the same thing.
Exactly.
That's the way I see
no difference. There is no difference.
And
this atom has, was it 9 electrons?
Right. If we see Mercury jumping into the sun, that would be a pretty good indicator that something's up.
No,
it won't happen that way.
Does that? If Mercury does that, it's because its gravitational magnetic field has weakened compared to the gravitational magnetic field of the sun, and in that state it moves in, and then we take its position.
Wouldn't that happen though, with the influence of another system that comes in with its magnetic field? Would it?
We all go in. All the planets moves in. All the planets move in.
Right. So wouldn't Mercury move in closer to the sun and perhaps get engulfed by it, or no?
No, you don't forget. Go back to the understanding of the structure of the plasma. 90% more of the total mass on the field sits in the center. We are just a speck of dust in the total lot. Even though we think Earth is very big, but when you look at the total mass of the plasma of the solar system, we are literally nothing. Even we would like to think we are very big, but what is 5% compared to 95%? And then out of that 5%, we are 0.0005% of the totality of the mass of this matter state. So Earth is irrelevant. We would like to think it is, but it's more or less irrelevant in its structure. And in so many ways...
It would also change the plasma of our sun, would it not? In a certain way, it might...
No, we go in. We go... The pattern seen all the time is that everything moves into the center. Because then the two stars will become one. And then the condition will create a new cycle of, what do you call it, existence in a more center core. This problem exists in 3 different dimensions. You got to understand and interact and interrelate the 3 dimensions. You actually 4 if you go one further step down. You have an electron which can merge into this proton. Then in a larger scale, the gravitational magnetic field of the Earth dictates when that electron moves into the proton, because it's in charge of its environment. Now, the next step is the sun gravitational magnetic field dictates where the Earth and other planetary systems are in respect to itself, independent of anything happening outside. But at the same time, the gravitational magnetic field of the sun has a say in the position of the electron in respect to its proton, because it's a master. And then The gravitational magnetic field of the center galaxy has a say on the position of the sun in the galaxy, position of the Earth on the sun, and the position of the electron in the proton. But the totality, all these electrons on Earth, the size, the speed of rotation, the position that it makes them electron, are totally are dependent on the gravitational magnetic field of this black hole or center line in this universe. So it's not that we just get pulled, or we pull an electron into a proton, or we get absorbed by our sun, but at the same time the whole thing in the galaxy is moving into the center, and that pull is partially dictated by the galaxy itself, but mainly totally is dictated by the central line gravitational magnetic field of the center of the universe, this universe. It's a natural process. I tried to explain this with magnets on the table. If you take a spherical magnets and you make clusters, you see how they move and follow each other. I do that quite a lot. This is how the next teachings are going to be. So I've set, if the knowledge seekers go into the lab, I've set nearly 100 magnets on the table at the moment to teach the position and what is about to happen. Different plasmas they can make and different conditions they can make. This is not abnormal. So everything is getting pulled. Partial of the pull because of the star is coming is because the system is getting pulled. The solar system on this wing of the magnetic field is getting pulled into the center of the galaxy. That brings some pressure in. But at the same time, the galaxy itself even is moving to find its position, is still moving itself to the center of the universe. Because what the universe central line is radiating out is becoming matter at the boundary of this universe. That's why we can't see beyond it. It's the same as we can't see through, or we'll see through different ways through the outer layer of this universe. We call them Earth layers or whatever names we've chosen for them. There's no difference in the structure. It's just the
just
process. Yeah. Now you make a put it this way, they're trying to do this collision between the atoms and make a fusion. It's the same process, but it happens through the gravitational magnetic field of the environment of the galaxy now. The two stars, or the position, the way the Earth is getting moved, or solar system is getting moved to the center of the galaxy, creates a condition. We got two choices: stop you going in, or take you out and put you somewhere else. I think sometimes it's the best way to
stop it going in.
Yeah. So in a way, when I see the behavior of the man, I sometimes say, I think it's better to let them go. But there are souls here that they need to be moved. Yeah, there are souls which they need to be moved, not for the man, but the souls. We don't move just the animal souls, like man, which is an animal. We move the souls which has been developed, being a fish, being a whatever. Even though man thinks his only things deserves to be saved. But in the same process, we try to teach how to produce food and everything that you can survive another direction. Feed a man a fish, you have to always give him a fish. Show him to fish, he feed himself. So we're trying to show you how to fish.
I don't know. I know how to fish, and I haven't caught a fish in a year. Not for lack of trying.
I spent a lot of time on the river in Samoa River in Belgium. Never caught one. My heart is not to catch, so they don't come. I don't like seeing animal killed. So I just sit there with the hope of one day. Yeah, my little boy does better than I do. Any other question?
So
we should probably wrap things up here now. I think we're getting into the 3 hour.
Can I ask you a question? We're gonna request something. We're gonna post all the emails and the letters which has gone to the world religious leaders. Please use the connection lines we give you, the same as what you did with the Belgian police, the same as what you did with the peace treaty. I know the Chinese are going to put hundreds of thousands out. We will put through the Keshe Foundation a copy of both letters to all the world religious leaders with their name on it and the address where the email has been sent to. please forward the same to encourage them to attend this, because it's for the humanity and not for us. So in the next couple of days, we'll post these things through the appropriate channels. If you notice, we've taken the traffic off the website and the forum deliberately in past few weeks through the heavy attacks which were coming in. So we do all most of our communication through the Facebook and other medias, which is a mass media. If you don't see high numbers on the forum, it's deliberate, because we cannot take so much pressure and wasted nearly. They tried to distract for months. Now it's not, no use wasting and just getting distracted from what we are here for. So all the things, a copy of all the letters and all the things will be posted to, what do you call it, on the appropriate channels for you to be able to write an email to or send a request to the world leaders, religious leaders, to attend this meeting. If they don't attend, we still carry on with our work. It doesn't matter. Thank you very much for all your help.
Yeah, and I would like to mention that there are a lot of spam kind of comments being launched at the Keshe Foundation sites, at Facebook sites, and so on right now from various contingencies. Especially there's a forum in Germany that are priding themselves in getting banned from the Keshe Foundation Facebook sites. So this is kind of what's going on right now. We just have to deal with it.
Rick, we know who is and who's financing behind them.
Right.
As I said, we got all the Swiss bank accounts. Yeah, as we say, we got all the Swiss bank accounts. They claim that they're the people who launched their first request to the Belgians and the rest of it. Soon you'll find out. We thank you for doing it. You do not know how much you helped us. In the coming time, very soon, we'll send you a letter of thanks, because with what you did has brought justice to a lot of people. You thought you were there to damage us, but you opened the Pandora box, which a lot of governments been holding tight back. You will understand soon what's going on. Because of you showing the true hand of the organization and the police force in Belgium, European police force have united to protect themselves against it. You'll be amazed. We'll release the information. You'll be shocked what is going on because of these people who thought they are there to do damage. They don't. Everybody who's moved to damage the foundation and the work of ours, they have helped us in a way to go much further. Thank you very much. Thank you indeed.
Thank you.
John wants to say something. 1 second, please.
So I just wanted to add a short piece. I have released a link to the folder where there are different things that has been filmed and photographed. So just have a look at all of that. And last film is the new small ceramic reactor that will be put together and that has been talked about earlier today. So I wanted to add this, so it's to you to have a look at all those aspects.
If you could. Okay. Say what? Thanks to everybody, and so ends the 17th Knowledge Seekers Workshop. Thanks to everyone on live stream and everywhere else in the world and other parts of the universe. Whew. Okay, bye for now.